So here's my hunch. For all the focus on culture war issues, the working class on the left and the right have a lot more in common than we're led to believe. And if that's true, it could and should have huge implications for the upcoming presidential election. So I went to Erie, Pennsylvania to find out.
That's right. A reporter with More Perfect Union visited a Trump rally in Erie, Pennsylvania to see if there's possibly any common ground among the MAGA crowd. Do progressives and Trump supporters share anything in common at all? Well, we're gonna show you some examples based on the people that this reporter talked to. Let's start off with the first video where the topic of economic stress comes up.
Why Trump instead of Bernie Sanders?
What I look at is more progressives like the Bernie Sanders faction and stuff like that. We actually see a lot of the same problems.
And I would vote for a Bernie Sanders before I'd vote for like a Ted Cruz or a Marco Rubio.
Prices are just higher. Like you go to the grocery store, I buy the same thing every time I go to the grocery store. I spend $102 at Aldi's. I was just telling my uncle this. I'm spending over $200 now. So things are more expensive. I think people are more scared.
Our money doesn't have no value, and that's why we're having problems. This whole inflation thing, it's been building and building for multi-decades, and it's getting close now.
You work at McDonald's, right?
I do.
Do you feel like you're getting everything out of work that you're putting into it?
I believe I should get paid more. All I am doing is I'm working my ass off to get my money. I'm a hard worker, and I feel like I deserve more.
I work down in West Virginia. On the rigs for Evil Big Red, Halliburton.
Oh my God.
Halliburton, we were 2 weeks on, 1 week off, so you never got to go home. We were the lowest paid of all the workers out there. I only made $13.50 when I got hired on.
For Halliburton?
For Halliburton, yep.
A lot more to get to, but I do find it interesting that when a reporter shows up at a rally to see if there's potentially any common ground, meaning maybe I'm gonna ask some good faith questions and see if there's any areas of agreement. You get completely different answers compared to some of the legacy media outlets and the type of questions they ask. It's almost like they seek out some of the unhinged stuff.
So look, I think you're gonna get a lot of both if you go to a Trump rally. And we've been to many Trump rallies and you get a lot of both, okay? You get the guys saying unhinged things, and yes, sometimes you get this. And by the way, this is More Perfect Union. They're in favor of unions, they're in favor of the working class, they're definitely progressive. They're going to reach out to MAGA guys. Now, what did we tell you guys? What have I been saying for all these years? And it's in my book too, and I wrote that portion 4 years ago, okay? So, yes, for me, my personal opinion is half of the Republican voters are unreachable. And they're in the culture wars, they're in this, they're in that, and you can't reach them. The other half are pissed just like us for the same exact reasons. But have they been misdirected? Of course they've been misdirected. So Trump's a con man, and therefore, unfortunately, he saw the discontent in the country, and like a lot of good con men, he was like, oh, they're mad, I can tell them I'm gonna fix it, and then I won't, I'll just get them to help me. And that's Trump. And so I feel bad and I wanna direct them in the right way, right? But saying like that they're irredeemable or that we're hopelessly divided, we can't ever come together on anything is terrible, it's wrong. Because look guys, it's possible to do both. Nobody fights harder than we do, right? You see it every day. So I'm not saying you give up on social issues. I'm not saying you give in to them on social issues. I fight them on that stuff day in and day out. But if they agree with us on higher wages, why wouldn't we take yes for an answer? If they agree with us on paid family leave, which they do, if they agree with us on raising taxes on the rich, which they do, take yes for an answer. But no one else in media is incentivized to bring people together.
I mean, I can understand why. I mean, think about how this very segment is gonna be treated, right? As if, oh no, this is TYT providing cover for racism and xenophobia and bigotry and transphobia. No, that's not what this is at all, okay? It's about what you choose to emphasize when you talk to people on the other side. right? Do you choose to scold them and just make broad generalizations about them because of who they choose to vote for? And again, I've said this a billion times before. Is there some contingent of the Trump supporters who unfortunately believe terrible things that happen to be discriminatory, hateful, bigoted? Yes. Do I think that's true of all of them? I do not. So the question is, what can we do to change our strategy to build broad coalitions, not just with, reasonable Republicans, but also with independents, also with, yes, establishment Democrats or those who have bought into what establishment Democrats are selling. How do we build the coalitions necessary to improve the lives of everyone in the country? How do we do that? Yeah. And look, we've had 6 years straight of endless scolding. It hasn't worked. So what do you guys want? Do you guys want to keep doing the scolding? Because everything is getting worse as we continue with the same failed loser strategy of just lashing out on people and calling them every terrible name you can imagine.
Look, my hope is that we can build an outsider coalition. Outsiders versus insiders instead of Republicans versus Democrats. So Republicans versus Democrats is a fake game anyway. They're on the same goddamn team and they all get the same donor money. And here, I'm gonna give you an example from the Democratic side in a second. And then look at corporate media, which is a combination of mainstream media and right-wing media, things like Fox News. And what do? They all agree on economic issues. They all think we shouldn't have student debt relief. Every single cable news outlet thinks that. They all think we shouldn't have universal health care coverage. They all think that we shouldn't have a higher minimum wage, etc. When you ask actual Republicans and actual Democrats, they say, of course we should have a higher minimum wage. That's why higher minimum wage wins every time it's on a ballot. And it doesn't win with just Democratic voters, it wins with the Republicans, it wins with independents. But now let's look at the Democrats. I've asked every Democratic politician who will talk to me, which is now a dwindling number. It used to be dozens, right? But I say, can you please, for God's sake, fight for higher minimum wage? Not just, I proposed it, Biden and Schumer took it out. I guess we can't do anything. No, fight for it, and show people you're fighting for it. Show them, and they'll come to your side. I can't get a single Democrat to do it. They're all like, no, I'm doing culture wars. I'm doing something else. I'm on Twitter. Why don't you fight for us, you idiots?
Because they don't want to.
And you know what's gonna happen?
That's not what they want to do, Cenk. That's not what they don't. There is a reason why both parties endlessly lean into the culture wars, okay? And that's not to say, I'm not saying that because we shouldn't fight the bad policies that further marginalize people who are already marginalized. But I just think when you have corporate interests, moneyed interests, legally bribing, because it's now baked into our system, both parties to essentially continue deregulating, continue cutting taxes, continue redistributing wealth from the bottom to the top, well, what are they gonna campaign on? How are they gonna sell themselves to the electorate? They're just gonna lean into culture wars, which by the very nature of them is divisive because it has to do with specific identities and pitting those specific identities against other identities. They are playing all of us, and they've been doing it for a while now. So my question to you is, what do we do to respond to it? Do we keep going in the same direction with a failed strategy, or do we find a way to build coalitions? That's what I want to do. I want to build coalitions. I want to build labor power, and I want to build coalitions so there's actually outside pressure that points to these members of Congress and says, listen to me, you guys have to represent us. We are organized, and if you don't represent our best interests, there will be consequences. And those consequences are political, of course, but right now they're not afraid of us because we're too busy fighting each other. So congratulations on that failed strategy. That's the only direction we've been going in.
Patrick Bet-David is on the right. I went on his podcast the other day, and what do people always say? You can't get the right wing to agree with anything. They're so crazy, they're nuts, all of them. Now look, I've attacked the right wing probably more than anybody in media. And when I went on a show, I ripped Donald Trump, and his audience was furious with me. Then I said, look, here's all the things we disagree on, and you can see I'm breathing fire on the things we disagree on. Now, what do you think about paid family leave? And I explained what it was. You know what percentage of their audience agreed after that? From a guy they don't like at all, 75% agreed. It's so easy.
Let me give you more.
It's so easy. We all agree. But we can't find one stupid politician to fight for us.
Because not a single one of them is afraid of the electorate. That's the truth. Let's go to one more video. Let's watch.
Global corporations, do they have, the Goldilocks question? Too much, just enough, or too little power? Where would you place?
I feel like their only thought is more money.
Right.
More power. That's all you care. Whoever has the most money.
Obviously, it's too much.
Yep.
When you have a company like BlackRock that's worth $9 trillion,
and Vanguard's what?
Vanguard's $8 trillion. Obviously, I'm not going to argue. There's a problem with that.
So you think the finance sector?
Yeah.
Does it have too much power? Just the right amount of power, not enough power?
Way too much power.
The financial sector.
100%. Yes. These people really, a lot of these people they don't realize are unelected officials. So all these politicians have this plan for how they're going to fix the economy, but then they just get in there, they don't do anything, and they're funded by the people, and those people are not elected, and they control the people that are elected.
It is incredible how aware they are of what's going on, right?
Yeah, no, guys, look, again, we've been to thousands of Trump rallies. You'll talk to people that have no earthly idea what's going on. And then sometimes you'll run into people that know exactly what's going on. But they're so frustrated, and the Democrats don't help them at all, that they're like, we're going with a wild card, right? And some of them in that video explain like, yeah, no, we know Trump's not the best guy, right? But at least he's like saying things that we agree with. And so I'm gonna get to that disaster scenario in a second, by the way. But look, 3/4 of Americans say that big business has too much power. Now, they mentioned private equity there. They mentioned, there's two guys that knew exactly what they were talking about. That guy you saw there, and then the guy in the white hair with the eagle shirt. If you watch the whole video, we'll put the link in the description box. More Perfect Union did a brilliant job with it. And thank you for reaching out to all workers, and not just workers on your side, right? That's how you build coalitions, that's how you win. Anyway, let me read you these stats so you get a sense of it. A Vox Data for Progress poll in 2021 found 71% support for raising the taxes of the wealthiest 2% of Americans, while a Reuters poll from 2020 found 64% support a wealth tax, a slight increase from 2019 Brookings poll that found 61% support for taxing the rich. In my book, Justice is Coming, we'll put the link down below for that too. I show you a poll where it's at 76% that says tax the rich, tax the rich. And in fact, the Vox poll from last year showed 50% support for taxing the rich among Republicans. But does any Democrat take advantage of that? No, because they don't want to take advantage of that ability to go get those voters because their donors told them don't. We're not going to help anyone. We're going to crush them and crush them and crush them. Now, here's the disaster scenario if you're a Democrat. At some point, Trump, I'm afraid to say it out loud, he might figure out that all he has to do is pretend on two of these issues. Say he's for a higher minimum wage, say he's for paid family leave, and he'll win in a cakewalk. In a total and utter cakewalk.
I mean, you think he doesn't know that? That's what he did. I mean, he didn't mention paid family leave. I don't remember him doing so. But in 2016, what do you think resonated with the voters? What did he lean into when he was campaigning?
No, he did one thing but not the other. So he actually did 2 out of 3 things. So one was he said he was anti-corruption. He doesn't believe a word of it,
of
right?
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
And he was, and I again read the part in my book about Sheldon Adelson and how easily he bribed Donald Trump and all the things that Trump gave him for those bribes. Okay, they're called campaign contributions. Anyway, thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.